Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. Time once again for the broom wagon, this time coming to you from the road. Here's my digs for tonight, covering the tour of Switzerland. So glamorous. Anyways, we're going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly from the racing. Of course, Dauphiné just finishing up. Tour de Suisse currently underway. Baby Giro. Got the neutral zone news. The broom wagon musette musings, and of course the tweet of the week. All that coming up on the next broom wagon. Okay everybody, let's get right into the Dauphiné and the good, obviously, Jakob Fuglsang, the birdsong man from Denmark. In spite of not being the pre-race favorite, except perhaps a very select few Danish cycling fans, and Jakob himself absolutely dominated the proceedings. 2 stage wins, overcame a pretty significant deficit to Richie Porte on the last day. Tactics did play a pretty significant role, but hats off to Jakob. And this is a result that he's been promising since he won the Junior Mountain Bike World Championships years and years and years ago, in front of Nino Schurter and Kulevi, 2 of the probably best in the world mountain biking today. So the pedigree was there, and it took a while for the stars to line up and for Jakob to finally deliver, and he has done exactly that. It was 10 seconds at the end to Richie Porte, but Jakob rode a fantastic race, tactically very clever, and you can't detract anything. Richie Porte, he had a lot to say about it at the end, but Jakob rode a flawless race. A great 8 days, start to finish. Fuglsang was the man, and he gets the win. The big question is, does that make him a legitimate Tour de France contender? And what's interesting about this result is, at the start of the year, Fabio Aru decided he would go for the Giro. Also, Vincenzo Nibali changed teams. So Astana decided that Jakob would be the designated leader since last winter for the Tour de France. And that is a lot of pressure to put on to any rider, especially if you've ridden in the shadows of some very famous team leaders, which Jakob has most certainly done. And he has risen to the occasion so far. And when it was announced that he would be the leader, this is months and months ago, Michele Scarpone was still with us. Fabio Aru was at 100% and going for the Giro. And so Astana, and I thought they might move Miguel Angel Lopez, his development, up a little bit to compete in the Tour. Lopez, still a very young professional, did win last year's Tour of Switzerland, but Jakob so far has done everything right in preparing to be the leader of Astana for the Tour de France. Top 5, most certainly, within his capabilities. And the way the Dauphiné played out, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Jakob Fuglsang was on the podium in Paris at the Tour de France. All right, let's go on to the bad now. Richie Porte, great racing, primarily the strongest guy in the race. Tactics didn't work out on the last day, but in the time trial and all of the very tough mountain stages, Richie was the strongest guy in the Dauphiné. Does that make him, as Chris Froome said, the #1 favorite for the Tour de France? We'll get to that in a little bit. One thing that BMC will really have to take a close look at is the team performance on the last day of the Dauphiné. Everything had been perfect up until then, and it will be interesting to see how they bolster their roster to help Richie win the Tour de France. And if he got into a similar situation in the Tour, which he most certainly will, anybody in the yellow jersey is going to have to face that, and he doesn't have the teammates there with him, same scenario could play out at the Tour de France, and that would be a real shame for Richie Porte. I think Richie, I've been saying this for many months, podium at the Tour. I don't believe that Froome's 100% accurate saying that Richie Porte is the favorite. That to me is still Chris Froome, in spite of a very strange performance from Froome in the Dauphiné. We'll get to that in a second, but I think that Richie was the strongest in the Dauphiné, and Chris Froome will be the strongest in the Tour de France. In the bad column, Alberto Contador, 11th. Alberto has promised not to panic between now and the Tour de France, but it should not have been, the Dauphiné should not have been that difficult for Alberto. And to have struggled that much in the Dauphiné, this close to the Tour de France, I don't think it's realistic to think you're going to win the Tour. I think that Alberto's too far behind where he needs to be. It should be effortless to get 11th in the Dauphiné for a rider of Alberto Contador's caliber, and it seemed to me to be anything but that. It seemed like Alberto was going as hard as he could go, and unless he finds an extra gear in his training between now and the Tour de France, I think he's going to struggle to find the podium. That's my assessment now. I don't think that's going to change before the start of the Tour, so we'll keep you posted, but I'm going to have to say that Contador was one of my podium picks at the start of the year this winter. That's not looking good right now. And let's go on to Chris Froome. I still think he's got enough time and enough experience at this point to still be considered the #1 favorite of the Tour de France. And I expect him, barring catastrophe, to go ahead and win that. It is a course that suits Froome's talents absolutely perfectly. The team is phenomenal. So in spite of finishing not even on the podium and not even having won a single race so far this year, which has never happened to Chris Froome since 2012, I think, I still believe that Froome Dog is the #1 favorite for the Tour de France. Unless something dramatic happens between now and July 1st, I'm not planning to change that. All right, let's move on to the Tour of Switzerland. And for me, there's the good, the bad, the ugly, and the wacko. And the rollers competition at the sign-on, I don't know if you've seen this, but you got to see the teams. Each team, one rider, 40 seconds, I believe, flat out. The winning team got a cell phone for each guy. Some riders mailed it in. Most riders, because that's how riders are, went as hard as they could possibly humanly go. I think that Nicola Bonifacio, he won the rollers competition. That has not, however, translated into stage wins when it counts during the race. I would recommend doing away with this. That's a big effort. 40 seconds flat out the day before a 9-day stage race. Unless you're getting extra money to do that, I would recommend none of my athletes participate in that. I don't know if it was required by the Tour de Suisse organizers, but to me it seems like a whole nother stage. And I'm pretty sure 10 stages is not allowed for any race outside of the Grand Tour. So, so let's hope that they do away with the roller competition and that does not become a trend in professional bike races. The good and the bad, one man, Rowan Dennis, wins the opening prologue time trial, and absolutely dominating performance. I hope everybody gets a chance to watch that. Watch our coverage on NBC Sports of the stage #1 prologue time trial. 6 kilometers, almost 57 kilometers per hour average speed. Very few time trials have ever been faster than that. And Rowan Dennis gets the first leader's jersey, obviously. Next day, and by a pretty handy margin, crashes at the bottom of the last climb, can't catch back up, and loses his jersey. That's bad luck for Rowan Dennis. He was a little bit further back than he should have been at a very strategic part of the race and was unable to catch up. That stage was won by another good Philippe Gilbert, still on good form after the Classics, where he was one of the dominant players along with Greg Van Avermaet, and that was a cool win. The sprint disintegrated because of Van Avermaet's own attacking in the finale, along with Rui Costa, big attack by Rui Costa with Jan Bakelants and Damiano Caruso, and so it was Philippe Gilbert able to read the race perfectly and anticipate the sprint and hold off a charging Patrick Bevan. So good riding by Philippe Gilbert, still on very good form. And finally, to the good, to the great American Nelson Paulus, Stage 1, Baby Giro, first leader jersey, pink in the Baby Giro, and hats off to Nelson Paulus. People often ask me, do we have any up-and-coming riders that are capable of being competitive in the international professional ranks? Nelson Paulus is most certainly one of them, so write that name down and watch for him to be continuing to make big headlines in the years to come. Here's one of the craziest uglies ever. This is the ugly. It's a crit race, I'm assuming. It's in an industrial park, and 18-wheeler comes at them on the course and stops at the nick of time. Just watching this is, oh man, oh wow. So obviously extensive injuries. 3 riders crash into the trailer. Mark Hoffman fractured 2 ribs and 2 vertebrae. Minor injuries to the other 2. It shows you how resilient cyclists are, how tough cyclists are. But Mr. Hoffman has set up a GoFundMe page, so if you can look on that for Mark Hoffman and donate at your ability to do so. All right, everybody, next up, the Neutral Zone News. Okay, everybody, up on the Neutral Zone News, the UCI and the IOC, presumably, announcing that the Madison, which is 2 men teams, 2 women teams, whereby you are partnered with the country man or woman, and you relay each other. I don't know if you fling your partner on track. There's a variety of events, which we will not get into until the next Olympic Games get a little bit closer. But it is an event that Mark Cavendish has competed in on a regular basis, is, I believe, along with Bradley Wiggins, the current world champions. I know they most certainly have won that within the last 2 years, and it could be that the World Track Championships have transpired recently and they've been replaced by a different Madison winning team. But be that as it may, that's not what the Neutral Zone News is entirely about. What it's about is Mark Cavendish took to Twitter to invite Geraint Thomas to join him, race together in the 2020 Summer Olympic Games and try to win the elusive gold medal that Mark Cavendish is seeking in his list of victories. Olympic gold is missing. He won silver in the Omnium last summer, but has not yet achieved the gold, so he asked Geraint Thomas via Twitter. Geraint Thomas said, sure. But in all honesty, that would be a pretty formidable team, and it also would mean, if they're serious, that Mark Cavendish will extend his career at least through 2020, and that is good news for everybody. I love watching Cav race. His passion, you like him or dislike him or love him or hate him, you got to appreciate what he brings to the sport. Very articulate. He has an almost photographic memory and a way to replay the tape of all the finishes he's almost ever done, and provides great sound bites to the followers of the sport of cycling. Love Cav, long may he reign in the sprints. And I'm not competing in the Madison in 2020 by any stretch of the imagination, so good luck to Cav and Geraint Thomas if it does transpire. Nairo Quintana has announced that due to fatigue from the Giro, he will not be racing the Route du Sud. Route du Sud is a stage race he's used in the past, and it's a smaller race than the Dauphiné or the Tour de Suisse, not nearly as many days. I believe it's 4 or 5 days, and Quintana's won that in the past, getting ready for the Tour de France. Most of the Tour favorites do either the Dauphiné or the Tour of Switzerland, but Quintana is going to leave his second place at the Giro d'Italia as his only racing in recent months before the Tour de France, in the hopes that he will be fully recuperated and ready to try to win the Tour de France. He does improve historically in the second Grand Tour each season that he does, but the Tour de France will be his 4th Grand Tour in a row, and I'm not sure if that formula is going to hold. And in the off season, I thought that, you know, the Giro, the race route, was so diabolical, it'd be very difficult to recuperate in time for the Tour de France. Alejandro Valverde, his teammate, is racing very well, and if Nairo is flying in the Tour, I would be perfectly content and happy to see that. But it's going to be very challenging, and if he's too tired to do Route du Sud, that's not that's not the type of feeling you want before the Tour de France. But a lot of things can change between now and the start of the Tour for everybody that's racing it. Form, fitness, recuperation-wise, health-wise. So Nairo, I didn't think he would make the podium this past winter when I heard that he was serious about trying to win the Giro. He was, most certainly fell a little bit short behind Tondam because of the long time trials, losing, I want to say, close to 4.5 minutes in the 2 time trials in the Giro. Time trials in the Tour, stage 1 and the second to last stage. So, and the Giro is so tough. It's hard to recover and be competitive for 2 Grand Tours in the season. Tour de France and Vuelta, I think, is a little bit different equation. Giro Tour, the Giro is just absolutely grim from start to finish, day 1 till the end, and tough to recover from. So, best of luck to Nairo, and if he pulls it off, I will be the first one in line to congratulate him. All right, everybody. Next up is the Musette Musings. All right, everybody, in the Musette Musings, British Cycling has asked Sky to remove themselves from their current headquarters, I believe in the Manchester Cycling Centre Velodrome area. And my question is, for everybody, what took you so long? Why has British Cycling and Team Sky been so closely intertwined for so long? They've shared staff, they've shared sponsors, they've shared, apparently, medical deliveries. But what they haven't shared is why testosterone patches were sent to the Manchester. Just kidding. If you've been watching the Broom Wagon, and you will have seen a number of questionable, at best, circumstances surrounding both British Cycling and Team Sky. Jiffy bags, which we call Ziploc baggies, I believe, and mysterious deliveries from pharmacies notwithstanding, plenty of serious offenses also. And it's high time that Sky had separate offices. They never should have been in the same building to begin with, is my take. Go to the comments section, let me know. Also, Chris Froome, rumored to be going to BMC. That is just pure jive. I don't know who generated that, but Froome says plainly and simply, that is a lie. And moments after that, Froome, it was announced, had signed with Sky for 3 more years. So I tend to believe that to be a more accurate rumor than Chris Froome signing for BMC. Also, in the Master Blaster Doping Stakes, we have a new high standard. This is going to be a tough bar to beat. Gerard Louis Robert, or Robert, Canadian cyclist, popped for testosterone. 24 World Master Blasting titles. 24 world titles. It's a lot of rainbows. 68 years old. 68. And taking drugs to race bikes. Second positive I think he was given a 4-year ban, and he decided that he was going to go to arbitration to adjudicate inaccurate first finding, A sample finding, and so they gave him 8 years. Sometimes it's better, perhaps, just to take your punishment and admit your wrongdoing and carry on. But so Gerard Louis Robert, or Robert, 8 years. And initially, when I started doing the broom wagon, one of the first news stories was Masters racers that had been caught doping, and I expressed my dismay, my inability to understand that, and a lot of people took me to task. Subsequently, those same criticisms have gone silent in the face of numerous master racers being caught for drugs, and I haven't even reported all the ones that are out there. So hopefully everybody can write in and apologize that disagreed with that. But if you still do, if you don't think that master dopers are the lowest lowest form that you can achieve as a bike racer, please feel free to comment. Leave the vitriol out, leave the bad language out, but I'd be happy to discuss what could be any worse than that in the realm of professional cycling, or excuse me, amateur cycling. Please let me know. My opinion at the time was that if you're providing a decent living for your family and you believe that the competitors you're racing against are cheating with drugs, and you do so just to give yourself an adequate or at least level, equal ability to compete, it is understandable. I don't condone it. I think it's wrong. I never would recommend anybody do that. Anybody that does should be immediately sanctioned. But compared to just for the pure ego gratification that master blasting doping means, to me, that is an even lower rung of human endeavor. So if you disagree with that, please let me know. And that was some lively conversation when I fielded all of those comments in the comment section. But as long as the language is clean, I'm happy to engage. All right. Next up, tweet of the week. All right, everybody, the tweet of the week coming to us from Chad Hagasuki. Bringing it home. Giro title, Tom Dumoulin. Oh, hats off. I've mentioned that in the last couple of broom wagons, last couple of BobkeTVs, but this is what Chad had to say. In 2015, I succeeded, but in 2016, I did not. Today, in the 7th stage of the tiebreaker round, the Roman Giro fiend defeated me. So the Roman Giro fiend is a Tour of Romandy, Giro d'Italia, and the Dauphiné. A heavy duty race schedule in the spring. I guess it's all in the spring. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of very, very difficult racing. I would say, Chad, you win 2-1 because you brought home the Giro title with Tom Dumoulin, your teammate. So. But anyway, thanks, Chad, for keeping it real. And I would recommend you don't try that. Maybe go Romandy Giro Tour of Switzerland. That way you get an extra week to recuperate. I'm sure you could finish those 3 races for the foreseeable future throughout your professional career. But in all seriousness, congratulations for delivering Tom Dumoulin to an absolutely brilliant Giro d'Italia win. All right, everybody, that's it for the broom wagon this week. Click on my face to, I guess it's over here, subscribe, and I need subscriptions to start piling up, honestly, or the broom wagon will vanish. That, I haven't said that for a while, but that's exactly what's going to happen. So please keep them coming. Merchandise, click on the t-shirt. The comments, I bet there are going to be some good ones this week. And thumbs up, greatly appreciated. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Till next time, everybody. Thanks a lot.